you're going to start with the piece of clay that you get off the clay cart. Everyone should have about the same size. And if you need more, you can always go back and get more. But you're going to first punch it down with your fist to get it down to a flat clay slab. The reason why we are making slabs for this is because we're doing a relief sculpture. A relief sculpture is when an artist has a 3D image popping out. You can't really view it from all sides, but it will pop out just like a 3D sculpture. Now, as you can see,
that's flat.
This isn't large enough for this tracer, so I'm going to need more clay. So I'll go back for another piece. Now, if I punch this down more, then it's going to be so thin, it's going to be brittle, and it's going to break. So we don't want it too thin. I'd say about the thickness of a pencil, okay? Because if it's really thin like this,
It's gonna break.
it's going to crack and break as it dries because clay shrinks as it dries, and you want a nice solid sculpture piece, okay? So here's how I'm going to add another piece. I'm going to kind of flatten it a little bit to get started with my hands, and then I'm just going to punch it down together. Alright. Guys, you are being recorded on video. This is what I was telling you about. You will get your chance to punch clay in just a little bit, okay? Alright, I'm just going to make it a little bit. You see how it's long enough, but it's not wide enough? So what I'm going to do is, and you guys might have to do this too, just going to add a little bit to the side. Notice how I already flattened it with my fingers. Alright. And it doesn't look pretty right now, but I promise it will when I'm done. So now I've got adequate scale and size. I'm going to go ahead and use this tracer to cut the clay into a rectangle, just like butter. Okay. Pull off the scraps. Alright. And I'm going to use this side because it looks prettier.
Yep.
Alright. And you can go in and touch up the corners with your fingers, but I'm not going to make time for that because I really want you guys to have more time. But you can actually smooth the cracks out with some water and really make your base look nice and smooth and solid. Be careful, don't use too much water. If you put a puddle of water in here, you're going to end up with a huge mess, and it's going to be really difficult to do much with your clay. It will become really sticky and slimy, and then you won't be able to get it to do what you want it to do. Alright, so I've got my base slab. Now I'm going to start adding my building. So I'm going to use my scraps, gather them back together, and I'm going to pinch off my first little bit of clay. Each building would be roughly all the clay you need, okay? And then, looking at her building, she's got like a diagonal line, rectangle looking building. So I'm going to take this small piece, flatten it out, not too thin, about the thickness of a pencil. And then I'm going to use my cutting tool to do her, she's got one straight line and then a diagonal on her building. So I'm going to cut it into how I want it. Now when you're adding clay to clay, you want to always do score, slip, smear. Okay, and I'll get the poster out in just a minute. So you're going to score the clay in the area you're going to be adding it by kind of scratching both ways. That creates a bond that looks like this. Instead of bonding the clay like that, you'll have a much stronger bond if you do scoring lines. And you want to do it to both pieces. Don't scratch too hard, just on the surface. And then you're going to add a little bit of water to kind of glue them together. And then you can place it like this. And then use your fingers to smooth out the connection. And you can even use your fingers in a little bit of water to get that building to look the way you want it.
That's cool.
Okay?
That's cool.
Now, then you'll add your next building, and then the next building, and the next building. Once you've added all your buildings, then you can start detailing. So you can take the clay pencil tool, and you can add in windows. She decided she wanted square-shaped windows, so I'm going to add square-shaped windows. Or let's say I want to do this type of a window, or I could do even a rectangle. So you're going to basically add in the details to your buildings. And then after that, you can even go in and add details to the sky, just like you did. Some of you added clouds. Some of you added birds, moon. Yeah, I saw some of you add the sun or a moon. Okay, and like I said, you might not be able to do as much. You might not be able to do as much detail to this as you did in your original drawing because clay is so much different than paper, and look how much less space you have. So you might have to leave some details out that you had in originally, but all the important ones that you really want to keep, this is your way of doing it. And in the end, this doesn't have to get recorded.